get stuff done.
We don't. Look around.
That's right.
So if you would like to grow a church like the Refuge,
We're
yes.
the church growth consultants.
Yes, we are.
No, actually, we're called the church shrinkage
We are church shrinkage.
consultants. If you want to know how to shrink your church, call us.
That's right.
But the truth is that some of those things will actually, shrinking your church can actually magnify what happens in the kingdom for sure. But that's another story for sure.
Action!
So our hope for the church, is that our last little chapter here?
Yeah, we have some hope.
I got lots of hope for the church, the dream church. I don't know that I care that much about the cultural manifestation of it one way or the other. I've been wrong so many times. You know, I didn't think this mega church thing was going to take off. I thought it would be anomalies and that would be fine. And but it doesn't matter. We can all, it's a big field. There's a lot of work to be done, and I don't need to worry about what somebody else is doing. But I like being in the part of the vineyard that doesn't get a lot of attention. I do like that. And I like it for, my hope is, I don't think the church was supposed to be pressure filled. I just don't see Jesus going, and by the way, you're going to have a life filled with a lot of pressure. A lot of deadlines. There's going to be a lot of deadlines and a lot of expectations to meet and a lot of budgets. A lot of financial issues.
Lots of heavy burdens.
A lot of heavy burdens. That's what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about my heavy burdens. That's what I'm speaking about. That's not the... Yeah. So to have a life that doesn't have that I am grateful for that. And I think my hope for the church is, I think each generation will have a few people that are going to want something that feels like family. Everybody wants family. People want community. And
a place where they can all agree on the same thing.
That's right, because that's how families are. All families agree on everything, right? That's what binds us together. But our stories do. Like, I think about this is interesting. Yeah. Like with my family, we're all so different. Everybody's so different, but we share some common stories.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah. How about you? What do you hope for?
Well, I lose hope all the time. When I just stay on the surface, like Facebook, I lose hope. But what gives me really hope are little glimpses, and like even that conversation we just had with you, Travis. There's these little things that you hear stories of where people are trying to stay together instead of split, and even people that I know that are quote unquote leaving the church, they're not. They're not leaving. They're leaving an institution that they used to go to.
Right.
And so they are leaving that, and it's because they kind of want something more. Yeah. And so, I think they get a lot of pushback, and you need to stay, you need to do this, and and I'm not saying that we're not supposed to stay in, into certain things, but I don't know if you're supposed to stay into something that you fundamentally disagree with as an institution. But I think you're supposed to stay in relationship with the body, and so the hope for me is that lots of people are trying to stay together or to stay connected, to live out their faith, to create safer spaces for these kinds of conversations. I see that all the time. Yeah. But I think what is sad kind of to me is that because it looks so different than the old way, we don't think it's real or that it's not happening. And so it's I don't know, everything just feels sometimes so bleak when it comes to the way it was. But the hope I have is that something new keeps popping through, and we're just kind of in the middle of it. And I think it's supposed to be this uncomfortable,
right,
and this hard and this weird. And that's the hope, kind of. If we can acknowledge it and honor it and go, 5 people getting together to be together is really important. And 500 people, in their context is really important. Honoring the full spectrum instead of being so this is what counts. This is what doesn't.
I do think a reasonable expectation and marker is, after a season of time, for a person to go, if I didn't show up, they wouldn't be the same without me.
Yeah.
And I think that's reasonable. I don't think that's asking too much for a thing that we're going to call church, where we have all these stories and scriptures and epistles written about people, each person participating, each person finding a value that they're not going to find most often, at least in the culture in which the Bible was written. They weren't finding that in their day-to-day life, but they were invited into this thing where they were needed, crucial, valued, depended on. And I don't think that's the story of the American church. I don't think people show up believing that if they didn't show up, this whole thing would look different.
Yeah. Oh, that is so true. That is so true, and that is so good, because that part does make me so sad. So many people sitting there, listening,
Right.
singing, and going home, and nobody does know them.
Right.
And you do kind of get that fix, that inspiration, that
That's right.
thing that feels somehow good in the moment, but then there's this great loneliness that happens over the rest of the time, really, except for that 1 hour even.
Yeah.
And lots of people are lonely in that 1 hour, but other
Right.
people are getting kind of filled up and inspired.
Yeah.
But then no one cares. And that's that part, one of the things that I love is, it's in the context of these conversations. When everyone's voice matters,
Yeah.
then everyone's voice matters. And when you kind of have a model where people are just listening, then only that person's voice matters.
That's right.
And I think that's what happened even with you and I in our wider thing, is that this was you and I, but we share this with a bunch of other people.
Right.
There's a lot of other voices in this community that matter and have something to say, and it doesn't only count for the pretty and the popular and the theologically grounded and all these other qualifications.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, for me, the hope comes from the margins, like where everybody can play, everybody has something to bring, everyone has something to say,
Yeah.
everyone can share what they feel about the Bible, or what they feel about an issue, or what they think about their stuff or their own story, and it counts and it matters. So people want those kinds of contexts. But I was also thinking that it's really vulnerable when you were sharing a little bit about when you're in real life and how vulnerable it is to even stay in these conversations or to stay in a community where you're missed or where you're valued. It means you have to show up.
Yeah.
And it is a lot easier just to not do that.
It takes a long time to we're human. Some people irritate me. That's just my reality. But what happens over a long period of time in relationship is that can become actually a connecting point. That I can, but it's not going to happen in 2 weeks. It's going to happen after we show up and we have our differences and we struggle over a long period of time. That irritation piece, for me, does begin to diminish. And it might poke its head up. But in other contexts, what happens is when I'm with an individual or groups of people that, quote, irritate me, I tend to move away from that. I don't lean into that. But if you say, I'm in, and that person has their voice matters, that changes me. It will change me. It changes your theology. It changes how you are. But it's uncomfortable. That's back to the uncomfortable part. It's so uncomfortable to be with what bugs you.
Yep.
And that's the reality of it.
I think there are a lot of people that want to be more uncomfortable.
I do too.
I do. I think that they want to be, that's the piece. They're I'm kind of tired of the same old. I'm tired of only having friends that are the same color.
Yeah.
Only having friends that come from the same background, socioeconomics. There's a longing for it. And lots of people don't know how to make those relationships happen. It's there's no bridges to it. And so that's a little bit of the hope for the church, that we can be a place that help tell stories and involve people in real life. And that is one thing I really do love about the last 9 years. It's some people who had never tasted poverty and pain, now we're all friends together. And it's transformed them. It's transformed me, being in relationship with lots of people in all different places in their life, and having it be okay to be there. So it's it's not going to drop out of the sky. But slowly over time, if you know people who know people, and you're all in relationship with each other, you start to intersect with real people.
Right. Yeah.
And real stories, and then
That's interesting.
yeah.
I mean, obviously, one of you guys is not going to heaven, but I guess you just trust the process.
I'm gonna miss you. Oh, I'm gonna miss you in heaven. And I guarantee you this: Jesus will be on time. Yeah? If Jesus has an appointment with me and he's late, I know I'm hosed. Like I
He's
know
gonna show up late.
that would be
Just to show
awesome.
you.
And he and Kathy will be late. That'll be it. That's my story of every meeting.
What gives you hope that people can disagree theologically, but still sit around the cross and be a part of resurrection?
Yeah, and that out of the soil, God's making new lives, and my hope is it's personal. Like this, I have to have this. I've got to have some people in my life who can shake me up. Yeah. You know, I can't just hang with everybody agreeing, thinking, seeing it my way. I've had little tastes of sort of being in charge of something, you know, where people have to sort of agree with you, and it's just poison to my soul. That would be poison to my soul. So whatever happens next, we'll see.
Yeah, it makes me think that just what you said at the beginning about the hope of what can happen if theologically we can have differences, but somehow we can still agree to continue to walk this path towards new life, and that Jesus is in it. Like he's big enough to hold all this. Like that brings me so much hope. I don't have to control it. I don't have to manage it. I don't have to, but that like he can do it. Yeah. God can do this. Yeah. And
or she.
I know. You know what? I always do that. But yeah, God can. God's got us. God has got us. Yeah. And I think that I learned that through this process a little bit. Like, God's got us no matter what. And He's got people no matter what.
That's good news.
That is good news. That is really good news.
And I think I do think our reputation as Christ followers has maybe been more about our tone than it has been about our theology. It's not just it's the arrogance, I think, that we're perceived as having. So even somebody holding a position but without any humility and with a harsh tone is what's hurt us more than somebody saying, hey, I think this is what I'm supposed to do, or I think this is what's right. I don't think that's what's been as harmful as the way in which we've historically said things, and the sort of the absoluteness of it, that I am the owner of the truth. Not that God is truth, I'm the owner of the truth. That if that shifts, I think our way in the world will be more inviting. You know? And I think people want to be loved by God and know they're loved by God, so that's our story.
Yeah, and you know, that's the other piece I think I do have hope, because it's helped me kind of stay into, is that I've met so many people over the last chunk of years that are representing God in this different way that feels so compelling, and their belief is, you know, their belief and their passion and their actions really like draw me in, and so it makes me want to stay in, because I've thought of leaving church and the faith. I've tried to walk away from Jesus, the whole thing, a million times, but something in this last chunk of years kind of drew me back in, and I think it's the Spirit for sure, and I think it's this hard stuff that we went through in a way, because I know like it was something deeper that God was doing in me. And then in the church, like watching really beautiful things come out of nothing, and it looks so different. Like it does not look like where I came from, but it looks so hopeful, because it's people's lives being changed, and people finding healing, and people finding their voice, and people finding a place to belong, and people like living out their passion for justice. Like for me, that's a really hopeful thing when people go, oh, I know that I'm supposed to care for those people. I know that I'm supposed to be in the trenches with hard stories. No, I'm supposed to advocate and sacrifice my time and my money and my ego and my comfort on behalf of this cause. Like for me, that's so hopeful. It feels like tons of people are doing that, despite what they might believe theologically about something anymore. But they still really believe that. And I think that that's God moving in their life. That makes me kind of go, oh, that's why I'm still in. That's why I couldn't separate from it completely.
Yeah, I think we've heard about a resurrection and we want to go see it. Yeah, so.
It's so good.
Amen.
Amen.
It'll never work. Just move to a different city.
We're dreamers. We're dreamers.
Hippies.
Yeah, and this is all true unless I get a really good